author. And so his first book was called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And then his new book is called The Buddha and the Badass. And I think most people probably recognize Vishen from being the CEO of Mind Valley, which has helped millions and millions of people. But we're going to be talking today about his new book, The Buddha and the Badass. And there he is right there. Vishen is here with us. What's up, man?
Hey, good to see you guys.
Thank you for making time in the middle of the night to pull this off for us.
Rory, it's good to see you.
Yeah. So this is our co-host, Madison. I don't think that y'all have ever met.
Hey, hi, Madison. Nice to meet you.
Excited to talk to you today.
So I want to dive right in, Vishen, with this concept of the Buddha and the Badass, which, you know, as soon as I saw it, it's like such a cool dichotomy. Can you just kind of like explain what that is at a high level?
Well, firstly, I'm seeing people say it's 11 p.m. in Malaysia, respect for Vishen. Well, let's take that respect down a little bit. I'm not in Malaysia anymore. I moved to Europe in the midst of COVID. I now live in the wonderful country of Estonia, which 80% of the world population probably cannot find on a map. But if you do find it, please visit. This place is amazing. So I've been living in Estonia now. This is my new home. And it is 7:30 p.m. here.
All right. I love it. Yeah, Estonia. Man, Estonian people are the best. They are so awesome and into personal development.
Really, Rory? Wait. How many Estonian people do you know?
I bet like 100. And there's not that many. There's only a couple million people, right?
That's like 2% of the population. How do you know 100 Estonian people? I don't know 100 Estonian people.
So when I was in college, I was in a direct sales program. I went door to door for 5 years. And there was a huge group of students from Estonia,
my God. Right.
that did it. And
yes.
So then I was the keynote speaker at the national event for several years as Estonia. Like the University of Tartu was the number one campus, and so yeah, I'm not kidding. Like I know something about it.
That's so funny. Yeah, a lot of Estonians. It's a thing over here. Estonians go to the United States to learn communication by becoming door-to-door encyclopedia salespeople. It's amazing. Right. But no, I love being here because Estonia is now Tallinn, which is where I'm in, is the city with the highest number of startups per capita, highest number of unicorn companies per capita. This place is buzzing. It's like Wakanda from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like robots walk the streets here delivering mail.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, and I think, you know, it's also, they're huge into personal development. Like they
huge.
Love.
Yeah. Like everyone here is so healthy. Apparently the world's biggest Tantra festival is now in Estonia. Like everyone here is so into personal development. So, and again, you got to come visit. So it's always nice to have visitors here. But let's get on with the question, Rory. Sorry, I was excited by all the interesting comments. I got derailed a bit.
No, that's great. I just wanted to, for people who don't, I mean, a lot of people recognize, you know, obviously Mind Valley, but I thought, you know, the concept of the Buddha and the Badass is awesome because I feel like a lot of the energy that we hear from, you know, personal development teachers and stuff, like, is kind of more of a one-sided energy. Like my first book, Take the Stairs, is kind of more of that like badass energy. Right. It's like, you know, Gary Vee or Grant Cardone, that very like forward, powerful energy. And then there's also, you know, like when I think of Gabby Bernstein, it's got more of that sort of like spiritual warrior kind of type of energy. And you wrote The Buddha and the Badass. And so I just wanted to hear kind of your thoughts about where does that concept come from and why did you go with that and how exactly do you think of those two types of energies and how do they marry together?
So both energies, the energy of the badass and the energy of the Buddha, work best when they come together. Think about this, right? First, let's look at the energy of the Buddha. So some of you guys may be familiar with the American philosopher Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber once wrote an amazing short story not a short story, but a short article called Egolessness. And he spoke about this obsession with ridding yourself of the ego. And he says that's nonsense. The great spiritual sages of the world, from Moses to Jesus to Padmasambhava, were not egoless. They were ego plus. They were spiritual, but they also rattled the world with the force of their ambition, from subduing entire continents to creating revolutions that would last centuries. Now, what Ken Wilber was pointing out is that we think the Buddha was this dude meditating under a tree, and he did. But the Buddha was a force of nature. The Buddha created so much change in the world because he went out there to teach, to evolve, to disrupt. He was the Buddha, but also the badass. This is true for Muhammad. It is true for Jesus. Jesus brought a freaking bullwhip into a temple. And so we think us great spiritual sages are egoless. They are, in the words of Ken Wilber, passive milquetoast. But they were not. These were men and women who rattled the world with the force of their ego, with the desire to create change. So that is the first big mistake that people make. We think to be spirituality is to be passive, is to be unattached. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Now let's go on to the second part, right? The badass. If you look at American culture, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there's this desire to build, to create, to disrupt. Nothing wrong with that. But if you do that without taking care of your health and your well-being, you lose your ability to truly create change in the world. I'm sure you've heard Richard Branson speak of this. You've heard Arianna Huffington talk about this in her books on the importance of wellness and sleep. So many great American visionaries have this balance. Right now, if you look at Silicon Valley, meditation is massive. According to Daniel Goleman, 45% of Fortune 100 provide meditation training for their employees. And the reason for this is because we are finding that even if you're a badass and you're one of the builders, you're one of those people who want to disrupt the world, if you can bring this essence of the Buddha into your life, you gain an advantage. And today, science is showing that too. The Harvard researcher, Sean Aker, has done multiple studies. He has found repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again that blissfulness, happiness, peace of mind improves everything about the way you function. It makes doctors 19% better at diagnoses. It makes salespeople 55% better at sales. It makes students better at their work. The science is so overwhelming that in the book, Positivity Quotient, okay, by Shahzad Shamin, he found, and he lists, he does a meta-analysis of all the studies, the number one predictor of a team's success is really the emotional states that this team has when they are working together. And we're talking states, we're not talking drive, we're not talking ambition, we're talking trust, positivity, feeling taken care of, feeling blissful. Now, when you bring both of these together, you have a recipe for a truly amazing soul. And let's look at the evidence for this. I want to read you a poem from memory. And I want you to see if anyone here watching can guess who wrote this poem. And if you read my book, don't spoil it for everyone else.
No cheating.
The poem goes like this. Okay, now as you listen to this poem, pay attention to the nuances that refer to the Buddha and the nuances that refer to the badass. The poem goes like this. I was early taught in life to work as well as play. My life has been one long happy holiday, full of work, full of play, and God was good to me every day. Now, as you can see from the writer of this poem, he believed in work, he believed in play. He seemed to have a luck. He said, God was good to me every day. He speaks about that balance, having the Buddha, but also bringing in the badass. Can you guess who the author was of this poem?
Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Does anybody know?
Some people said Rumi. A lot of people are saying Rumi, actually. Some people are putting an emoji of a goat. Someone said Andrew Carnegie. Someone said Rockefeller. Well, congratulations. It is Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller is the richest American who ever lived. Yet he wrote that poem when he was 82 or 83. It's in the book Titan. And so we find that even among these people who are shifting the world, they understood this balance. Now, someone commented Steve Jobs. Let's look at Steve Jobs. Read his biography by Walter Isaacson. You see clues of this. Steve Jobs was a Buddha badass. In the biography, Walter Isaacson said, Jobs believed in prana, or an intuitive understanding of the world. He believed that there were people who had the ability to influence the world, and that he was one of them. Jobs, as you know, traveled to India to meditate, to sleep in ditches, to experience being a hermit. Jobs also was a big fan of Paramahansa Yogananda. In fact, at Steve Jobs' funeral, the only book that everybody got at that funeral in the gift bag was Autobiography of a Yogi. Jobs was a walking, living yogi. You look at his Stanford commencement address and he says, follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know who you are to become. You see this laced throughout his words. Yes, he was a workaholic. Yes, he drove people, but he pushed people. He literally pushed people because intuitively he could see visions of the world that he knew he had to bring true. And of course, when you see those visions, you get that frustration. You want to bring it true. Steve Jobs wasn't a bad person. If you actually interview the people, if you read the interviews of the people who worked with him, they speak about him as a man who actually uplifted them and made them dream bigger than they ever possibly could. Jobs was a yogi disruptor. Rockefeller was a yogi disruptor. All of these people shifted the world with the force of their ambition and their soul. This is what we mean by the Buddha badass. So what I talk about in the book are practical exercises to unify both these forces.
I think it's so powerful. It reminds me, I did martial arts when I was young, and you know, it's like the yin and the yang in Chinese culture. And then I also love, like, in the Christian account of creation, you know, there's like the fall of man and original sin, but work actually exists before that. Work was a part of God's design for like what led to a happy life. And when I think of, like, you know, that poem and the balance of being successful, it's kind of like that badass energy helps us to drive and to conquer and to achieve. But the Buddha energy gives us that perspective, which is at least an equal part of success, is being able to handle failure, being able to be mindful, being able to deal with rejection and tragedy, and just kind of have peace in the middle of all of it. Madison, what are you thinking about? Like, how do you think, what does that concept make you think about the Buddha and the badass?
So right now I'm wondering, I think that there are a lot of people out there who maybe identify stronger with one than the other. Like, maybe if you're really high strung and kind of a workaholic, you're like, oh, I fit more in line with the badass. Or, you know, if you're a very peaceful person, you might fall on the other side. And I think some people might say, well, I just really don't have much of that other energy, or they might really struggle tapping into it and don't know how, because they're so far on the other side of the spectrum. So those people, what's your advice to tap into side that they don't know well yet?
So what, could you say that again? I lost the audio for a second. What is your advice for
the people who fall more in line with either the Buddha or the badass and don't know how to tap into the other side?
Great question. I love that.
So there are practices that you can bring in, right? So let's say you are fully in the Buddha zone. Okay, so, well, actually, I want you to think of this as a 2x2 matrix. So you need two ingredients. I believe you need two ingredients that you got to bring into your life to fully fulfill your potential. The first is happiness in the present. Okay, and I'm using happiness here as a catch-all term for gratitude, peace, being a loving, compassionate person, being kind, all the emotional states associated with bliss in the present. And the second one, vision for the future. Now, many entrepreneurs, they have a vision for the future, but they don't have happiness in the present. They have attached their happiness to attaining a goal. I will be happy when I hit that sales target. I will be happy when I build that new office. I will be happy when I raise that $1 million. That's a lousy way of living, because as the Sean Acre studies are showing, happiness should be untangled from your goal. Happiness should come as rocket fuel to help you get to your goal. Okay, so those entrepreneurs, they're living in stress and anxiety. You get burned out. You're more likely to get sick. Now, the second type of person is the, for lack of a better word, let's use a common archetype, the hippie. Okay, the hippie is blissful right now, but doesn't care about the future. Chill out, man. Like, who
I was born in
cares?
Boulder. I was born in Boulder, Colorado, which is like one of the hippie capitals
Exactly,
of the
exactly.
U.S.
Right now, nothing against hippie. I become a hippie every now and then. But here's the thing: if you, and it's good to appreciate happiness, right? But there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from contribution. Fulfillment comes from seeing yourself grow. Happiness you can get from smoking a joint. Happiness can be an illusion. Now, if you are at that level, you can be happy, but I doubt you can be fulfilled. And so what you want to do is you want to bring up both levels. Now, there are multiple practices to do it. If you are happy, but you're lacking vision, try my exercise, the three most important questions. It's in the book. It's also free on the internet, the three most important questions. And it's about stripping yourself of cultural programming and identifying really what are the visions that excite your soul. Often it's not that the hippie archetype doesn't have a vision. It's that the hippie archetype is being pressured through parental upbringing, through politics, through media, through society to embrace a vision that actually isn't right for them. But when you strip away the cultural programming and you listen to your soul, you are able to find that vision and bring your life in balance. Now, let's say you are the entrepreneur, the disruptor who's over here, but low on happiness. What you got to bring in is a meditation practice. The practice I designed for that is called the 6-phase meditation. Again, it's free on the internet. If you're a Mind Valley member, there's a beautiful new course on it that's coming out. I talk about this in my books as well, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind and The Buddha and the Badass. And this meditation practice brings you up to the right emotional states so that what you are seeking to bring forth in the world comes to you effortlessly.
Okay. Okay.
I was, as you were talking, Vishen, it made me think of like that distinction between happiness and fulfillment. I think is such an important one, and there is like, at least in American culture, there's I think a big focus on the badass kind of energy, which is
Right.
that you're driving to achieve and achieve. And I think a lot of times we ask the wrong question, which is like, what's my purpose? And what we find is that a better question is to ask not what's my purpose, but who can I serve? And when we ask who can I serve, that's almost more of like that Buddha energy, which brings the
Right.
fulfillment. Like the word you used that hit me was contribution. Like it's the difference between achievement and contribution. And I think that is a really powerful part. They're both kind of like forward energy.
Right.
But enjoying the moment, enjoying the journey, I think is something that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people. So how do you, for the high performer, okay, so, you know, I think of like the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, but like for the high performer who has been programmed their whole life, you must drive, you must achieve, you must conquer, you must have goals, you must have vision, but they're sitting here today going, I am friggin' burnt out, I'm overwhelmed,
Right.
I'm stressed, I'm anxious. Is your biggest advice to kind of just spend time in this
No. No.
meditation?
I mean, my biggest advice is if you're a high performer and you're not on Mind Valley, you're insane. Like you are missing out on so much because there's a whole set of methodologies that you need to take into account. So if you're a high performer and you want to accelerate your performance, yes, we spoke about happiness, but then there are multiple dimensions of your beingness that one needs to pay attention to. One example would be health and fitness. Okay, understanding the most optimal ways to get the best results for your body in minimum effective time. Number two, nutrition. What you want to figure out is how to train your brain's attachment to food to bring in practices like wild fit, like intermittent fasting, so that you can optimize your body. You know, if you're a high performer, Dr. Daniel Amen just shared with me some studies he conducted last year that showed that every little bit of belly fat that you carry or fat on your thighs, if you're a woman, actually lowers your cognitive performance. The third thing, so you gotta be able to be, we gotta be lean, right? But obesity is a epidemic across the world. The third thing is you gotta take care of rest time and recovery time, and this means sleep. The fourth thing is healthy relationships. It doesn't mean you need to be in a relationship, but it means you must come from a place of compassion and kindness to other people. It actually creates biological shifts in your body that improve your performance. Studies on forgiveness, so people who are forgiving typically tend to be people who are very compassionate. They don't carry grudges against other people. Studies on forgiveness show that you have less anxiety, you have less fears, you think clearly, you live longer, you have less back pain, you're less prone to depression. And then, of course, there's that fifth one, which is happiness. So there are all of these different things that you can bring in. Now, as you bring this in, you can get to the next level of self-optimization. This is where you learn to bring in human intuition. It's a real thing. It's crazy if we still debate if intuition is real. You learn to bring in human intuition so that you have a better hit rate at your ideas. You learn to access altered states of mind, mojo, flow, so that you can be powerfully focused in your work to get results. You learn from Mind Valley teachers like Jim Quick, super brain, super reading, so that you can consume more in less time and raise your cognitive functioning. Super reading, for example, in 3 weeks, you improve your reading speed 270%, which is huge. So that's the second level. Now there's a third level. The third level is where you tap into your spiritual core. You literally learn the art of bending reality. The world is an illusion, and we can manipulate that illusion. You learn to actually manifest synchronicities, coincidences, to attract to you the right people at the right time, to shift the fabric of reality so that you can better get to your goals. There are 3 levels of development for the human being. So basically, you got to start. Now, Mind Valley covers all 3, but you got to start somewhere. Everybody talks about diet right now, exercise. We get that. There are better ways to do it, but you can go to level 2 and level 3. Level 3 is the most interesting one. My job is to ensure level 3 is going to be in our schooling system 10 years from now.
Interesting. Madison, what else? I'm just curious. I'm curious, what do you think, like the success readers and the people watching, like, what do you think are some of their biggest questions while we got Vishen for just a couple more minutes?
Well, Vishen, you mentioned nutrition and diet, and I was having a conversation the other day, and we had an interesting take for nutrition that, it is a lot of food and everything, but it's that we ingest, not necessarily just like food and hydration.
Right.
Conversations we have, what we fill our feeds with on social media, our days with, and I was wondering what your take on that is in terms of everything that you talked about.
I'm so sorry because the sound was cutting out, so I caught glimpses of that. But no, when we talk about nutrition, we are specifically talking about food and obviously water consumption, right? Nutrition, and there's so much. It also involves supplementation, and it also involves the chronology of eating. Fasting is a really, really, really powerful practice. I practice intermittent fasting 3 to 4 times a week. Amazing stuff, right? So you look at the chronology, the type of food, the balance of food. J.J. Virgin, famous author on nutrition, says your body is a chemistry lab. It's the combination of the foods as well that go in. So that's what we mean by nutrition.
Tell me about the mind-bending reality part, Vishen. Like,
right.
When you say the world is an illusion, I very much believe, like, to what Madison's question was about, like, the media that we consume. No.
Yeah, guys, why do you think Steve Jobs' favorite book was Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi? That book literally says the world is an illusion. Practices like so let's go really deep down the rabbit hole, okay? Let's talk about the personal growth that we're going to be talking about 10 years from now. Now, if you think I'm insane, keep in mind that in the 60s, if I were to get here and talk about yoga, people would think I was crazy. In the 70s, if I talk about sitting cross-legged and meditating, people would go, oh, you just joined a cult. 10 years from now, Success Magazine is probably going to be writing about astral projection, the concept of being able to consciously have your soul leave its body. We'll be talking about going on adventures as you sleep through lucid dreams. We'll be talking about the mind-body connection, how you can accelerate healing in your body with your doctor's advice through the practice of imagery therapy. You would be talking about accessing altered states to tap into ideas that are outside your 5 physical senses. Intuition for product creation. Now, I bring all of this into my life. When I'm creating a new product, I might go on a plant medicine, a trip. I might go into deep meditation, and I can see the product exactly the way it should be. When I get stuck in something, I go into a deep meditation and I work on energy, the energy of what I want to create. And what happens is the right person, the right idea comes into my life. When I'm feeling sick, I work with imagery therapy from the Silva method or Reiki to help resolve that illness. Everyone needs access to these tools. And these are not crazy talk. The evidence for this right now, the scientific evidence is so overwhelming. Those of you who are skeptics, check out the book Best Evidence by Michael Schmicker. He was a journalist who was asked to go and debunk all of this. And instead, he became a believer. So there's so much stuff that I'm so excited about bringing to the world, which is why I love what I do.
Yeah, it makes me think of that, how, what makes sense about that to me without knowing the details is this concept that it's very provable that we only use like 10% of our brain, right? Like that our conscious mind processes 10%. And you go like, what's going on with the other 90%? Like something is happening. Yeah. And I feel like more and more of the future is like being able to tap into that, because you certainly come across people in life and you just go, gosh, there's something different about that person. Like there's something special about them, or I just enjoy their energy, or they have this ability to achieve everything. And there's something that's kind of like predictable but unexplainable. And I think it's in the realm of the stuff that you're talking about. Well, Vishen, we know you have a tight schedule. We wanted to honor that. Y'all, if you're not following Vishen yet, click in the top left corner. Make sure that you follow him. Check out his new book. This is his second New York Times bestseller, The Buddha and the Badass. Obviously, look into what he's talking about with Mind Valley. They've had millions and millions of students. Vishen and I are just meeting actually today for the first time, but I've got lots of friends who I've spoken highly about you for years, Vishen. And so we're just so grateful that you took time out of your evening to come and join the Success Room. And is there any last things you want to leave us with before you head out?
No, I was just going to say, if you find these ideas interesting, go check out Mind Valley. Yeah, everything I spoke about is there. And I hope you enjoy my book, The Buddha and the Badass.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being here. We wish you all the best.
Thanks, Vishen.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Wow, Madison. So what was your biggest takeaway? Do you feel like that was
Hey,
awesome.
can I just stay here, chill, and listen to you guys talk about your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I'll stay for like 5 minutes.
We're going to talk about you behind your back, in front of your face. Go for it, Madison.
No, sorry guys. If you hear something whiny in the background, it's my whiny dog who's decided that now is the time on the conversation. So I keep muting and unmuting myself, but no, I mean, that conversation was awesome, because I think that, Vishen, you're right. Energy is such a new topic of conversation. It's not new. It's actually been going on, since the beginning of time, but people are just now starting to be to tapping in. That energy is. And so I think, we do live in a culture, especially here in the States, of the hustle culture, where it's like you're on full on badass mode. You're the badass mode all the time. Like you're go, and like your fulfillment is always like, I'll be happy when I get this car, when I get this house. And so learning how to be happy in the present, hearing you talk about that was really eye-opening for me, because I don't think that a lot of people understand that, especially in the culture that we live in here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, guys, I realize I may be putting you in an awkward position staying around, so I'm going to turn off my camera. I'll still be listening. I got to go clean up my house, take the garbage out. but I'm going to be listening as I'm taking out the trash.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks,
Sounds
guys.
good,
Thanks for having
man.
me.
Thank you so much, Vishen. Yeah, I mean, I think Madison, for me, the thing that sticks with me there is the idea of basically delayed satisfaction. I'm a big, I'm a believer in the concept of you have to be willing to do things that you don't necessarily love doing in order to get the things that you want. I find that to be true in a very functional way. But even doing things that you don't enjoy doing, you might not like intermittent fasting or eating vegetables or taking vitamins. But I think there's a big difference between doing things you don't want to do and delaying happiness and joy and bliss. And I think it's kind of ironic how so many of us are thinking that achievement will equal fulfillment, and that some accomplishment or some thing, or I think what a lot of people do are chasing now is they're chasing like followers. They're chasing like like if I had more followers, I'd be happy. If I had more money, I'd be happy. And frankly, the matter is, if you're not happy where you're at now, you're not going to be happy. Like, and learning to be blissful while you're on the journey and still chasing something, like still being okay. Ed Milet described it this way, which I thought was pretty good. This was one of his YouTube videos. He said, you can be enjoying a bite of steak and savoring every morsel of that moment of the steak, and at the same time still be wanting more steak.
Yeah.
And still be looking forward to having more steak. And that kind of was a little bit of a parallel for how I was processing some of what Vishen was saying, is like, don't just be like waiting for the perfect steak. It's like enjoying it, absorbing it, intaking it, resting in it, soaking in all the beauty and the splendor that is around, while still be pursuing something and creating growth. But I don't think that's how a lot of folks live. I think he nailed it, where it's like most of us are either like, okay, man, let's just chill and be happy, but we're not really contributing to other people. We're not pushing ourselves. We're not drawing the most out of us. Or there's a whole nother camp, which is, probably just as many people, if not more, which is all I do is work and strive and hustle, but I'm miserable along the way. And then I get to this destination and I find out the destination didn't bring me as much peace and happiness as I thought.
Yes. And then something that you mentioned, Rory, is like right now that a lot of people are chasing this influence, because a lot of followers, the social media culture that we live in, everybody wants to have these big influential platforms where people listen to them and everything. But, it's like we talked about with your purpose and that talk, like, until you find out how you're going to serve people and what you can contribute to the world, why would you expect for people to come to you, to follow you, to have that influence, right? So I think the balance there, you can't just keep chasing things until you figure out, what you can bring to the table, what's going to make you fulfilled and happy in the moment.
Totally. And that the follower thing is kind of like the new currency, is like followers. But I think it's also a great example where we go, oh, we think, hey, if I have more followers, I'll be successful. People will think I'm successful, but we're ignoring the people that we have now.
Yes.
And going like, if you can't enjoy what you have now, if you can't serve the audience that you have now, if you can't be in love with and love on the audience that you have now, a bigger audience would be no different.
Right.
And you're also probably never going to get that bigger audience, because the way that you get there, because I don't think it is wrong or vain or like a bad thing to say, hey, I want to have influence in the world. But it's like, you gotta love the people that are there now and serve the people that are there now. And that is the vehicle to having more influence, but not, you're not waiting for that joy and happiness and that ability to sort of love on people until you have a bigger audience.
Yes. And I think that people need to stop trying to find validation in how many people are watching and start finding that validation that they're looking for and their follower count and all of that and what they're doing. That validation should come from what you're contributing, how you're serving, what you're doing. And that's where you should find that level of peace and happiness and fulfillment before you start looking outward at like, okay, well, who's listening, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an amazing talk. He's really mind-blowing to listen to all of what he had to say. The balance between the Buddha and the badass was really eye-opening, but it made a lot of sense. I think it made a lot of sense. And like I said, especially living in the culture that we live in, the hustle culture, tapping into that inner Buddha is something I think a lot of people can learn to work on. So I'm really glad that we had this conversation. Now the reality bending, I need to read more about. I want to know more about what he meant by all of that, because that was really interesting to me. But I'm really glad that we got to have him on here today.
Yeah, he's awesome. I feel the same way. I wonder how much of that, like other 90% of my brain, or the intuition, or the, you know, kind of like metaphysical, like I'm not yet accessing. You know, and people call it different things, you know, I call it prayer. Some people call it attraction. Some people call it manifesting, like, but whatever it is, I think we all, like so many of us kind of know intuitively that we're so much more than just a physical being. There's a spiritual being, and the exploration of maximizing our ability to use the full capability that's been given to us is exciting and challenging and a little bit scary, but certainly like fascinating and curious. So anyways, this was awesome.
This was awesome. And I mean, bouncing off what you said, Rory, I think that we're just scratching the surface. I mean, we're just now hearing about the word empath, you know, like when you're an empath. And I thought that meant you were able to just like feel what other people felt. If somebody got in a car wreck and was sad, you felt sad. I didn't realize what that is you're able to like understand energies. Like when you walk into a room, like you can pick up on the vibe really, really fast. You can pick up on things from all sorts of different places. And now you have all of these people coming forward saying, oh, I'm an empath. I can do that. So I think that we're just now scratching the surface on understanding, you know, even 1% of that 90%, you know, that we don't know yet. So no, this was really fun, Rory. Thank you for coming on, for bringing on Vishen. I love these talks, highlight of my week every week. I'll say that every Thursday. So I can't wait for next week. Tune in at 12:30. I don't think that we're going to have a change, but if we do, know that we'll always post in our stories to let you guys know.
Awesome. See y'all.
All right. Bye.